Hello and welcome to another episode of This Australian Beyond. What I'm looking here is the safety of this site here. Now look at this. The padlock is locked and the other one is just tied up with some wire. And where we are? At the multi-billion-dollar project for the new tram for the eastern suburbs of Sydney. This is it. Today our program is going to be about politicians. Maybe I will rephrase that. Useless politicians. That they just waste your money. And this is one example. Here at this site of the new tram for the eastern suburbs of Sydney, they have already gone $1.2 billion over budget, and they're 12 months over time, over schedule. And what is happening here? We spoke to a lot of these business people here with the shops. These are the taxpayers that they are paying for this, amongst others like yourselves. Now the disruption for this business is incredible. The business in this area have been absolutely crippled because of the dinosaur, because of this project. Yes, the dinosaur that they call the new tram of eastern suburbs or something like that. Anyway, and this is what we're going to talk about today, about the useless politicians. Now, just stay tuned, because towards the end of our program, I'm gonna explain to you why I don't pay tolls. Yes, you heard it right. I don't pay tolls. I refuse to pay tolls. I will explain to you the reasons why, and I will show you the letter that I got from the court when I took them to court and I won the case. I took them to court because I'm not paying tolls, and I won the case. Actually, the case was dismissed. I haven't paid tolls for many years. I haven't cancelled my license, I haven't cancelled my registration. I will explain to you towards the end of the program. But first of all, let's have a look at some of the projects like this one here. Remember, 1.2 billion over budget. And that's not even the end of it yet. 12 months over time. Businesses that have been crippled. And that's because of our useless politicians. And that's not just the Liberals, that's the Labor as well. We're going to have a look at some other suggestions. And we're going to ask them if they looked at other options like they do in a lot of other countries around the world. Now, wherever you go around the world, you see metros. Underground railway systems everywhere, right? Why couldn't we build an underground railway system that we can use for our transporting people and goods like they do all over the world, especially Europe? They do that in small cities in very poor countries like Greece, for example. They've done this amazing metro, and they do it in Salonika, in a very small city. Why can't we do that in Sydney? So we're going to have a look in detail why a metro is probably a much better idea than this kind of dinosaur. Now let's have a look at the good reasons why we should just build our railways and tram systems underground. Now, we just went past a big project here for the railways, which is happening for the last 12 months. It's just a bridge. Imagine if this railway line was underground. Let's have a look at this report, and you get an idea why it's better to have the railway systems and the tram systems underground. No bridges. We don't have to worry about retaining walls or retaining any of the land. Any of this infrastructure, it doesn't have to be even galvanized when it's underground. Look at it now. It's all getting rusty. Look at it. And then what about the noise? What about the ugliness? Don't tell me that those things here, they look good. They're ugly. And imagine if we send the Sydney railways underground. It means that the traffic flow would be a lot better, because now hundreds of streets they just cut in half. When this goes, the streets will join again. Now we're just waiting in a lot of traffic, especially peak hour traffic, just to cross one bridge every 2-3 kilometers. Where's the next bridge from here? Down at Redfern. How many streets there are between here and Redfern? Have a look at this map that we just made. Incredible, isn't it? Now what about the value of this land? In a few years' time, our youngsters won't be able to buy not a flat, but a little garage. And of course, imagine how many thousands, or should I say hundreds of thousands of jobs we can create by building those tunnels, and of course, just having this land available for infrastructure. So a lot of reasons why the railway should be underground and not up here. Imagine all the land that's going to be released. Imagine the roads that we're going to just free up instead of having this dinosaur railway line in the middle. The traffic is going to be so much better. But imagine the land. We can use the land. We can build houses for our youth. We can build universities, anything we need. Now, let's have a look. What do they do in other countries? Now, they started building a metro about 100 years ago in London. Now, have a look at this report.
Not many of us realise, as we use this historic structure every day, how impossibly brilliant the engineering of it had to be to defy a generation of doubters. Its engineering remains something Londoners should treasure as remarkable, groundbreaking, and emphatically ours. It is one of the true wonders of the Western world. First propositioned over 150 years ago, it is now one of the world's busiest transport networks and finest examples of engineering. London has always been a popular destination, but never more than at the beginning of the 19th century, when it transformed into the largest city in the world. It was, on the face of it, an ambitious idea, running trains, and steam trains at that, in tunnels underneath London. By 1855, Parliament had everything it needed to approve the construction of the first underground railway in the world, the Metropolitan. Using cut and cover technology, workers excavated the entire 3.5-mile tunnel, laying the road back over the top as they went. Combination of electric traction, hydraulic lifts, and safe tunnelling technology give us the world's first deep tube electric railway. Thousands of Londoners were now using the tube daily. By the 1930s, the London transport system was unquestionably the best in the world.
So if they can build a metro back 100 years ago, why can't we do it here in Australia, here in Sydney? And instead we're just building these dinosaurs. But let's have a look and see what they do today in London. Have they stopped building metros in London? No, they haven't. Have a look at this.
Today, one of the largest and most ambitious engineering projects in Europe is underway. Crossrail. 8 giant custom-made tunnel boring machines are working 24 hours a day to excavate the ground and build concrete tunnel walls. Once complete, many thousands of Londoners will go about their business largely oblivious to its presence. Perhaps we should, every now and then at least, reflect on what the city would be like if the tube had never existed. Be thankful for the visionaries of the past and hopeful that their legacy will once more receive the attention it deserves.
And now I would like to compare today's useless politicians with the politicians of the past. And I'll just go back about 100 years ago, maybe 80 years ago, when they start building our Sydney symbol, which is the Harbour Bridge, our beautiful Harbour Bridge.
The Harbour Bridge has become world famous as a symbol of Sydney. but its construction was the result of over 100 years of discussion and planning. Work finally began on the bridge in September 1926.
Now, that bridge, if it wasn't for the Prime Minister Lang and the engineer Bradfield, it wouldn't have been there. Because people don't know, but the Parliament decided against building that bridge. But then Lang took the money and said, okay, let's start a project. And that's how they've done it, because he wanted to get the project done. Now, that's a politician. That's a politician that I'll vote for any day. Let's have a look.
I don't know whether that is the first tram, but it is certainly one of the early ones that went across the bridge.
Unnoticed by anyone, an extra horseman, Captain Francis de Groot, had joined the rear of the light horse escort, with historic consequences. Incensed that the bridge was not to be opened by royalty or by the Queen's representative, Captain de Groot galloped forward and slashed the ribbon with his sword. He was quickly hustled away and the ceremony continued. Finally, thousands of people walked across the bridge. Today, around 176,000 motor vehicles and 400 trains cross the harbour bridge every weekday.
So our harbour bridge was built because of our Prime Minister Lang and the engineer Bradfield. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have a harbour bridge, like I said before. What did they do to say thank you to these people? Guess what? They sacked them. When the bridge was finished, they sacked them. This is how they say thank you to people that they have the guts to go ahead and do something like this. And compare that politician with our today's politicians. And this thing here, this dinosaur, $1.2 billion already costing more than it's budgeted. And 12 months over time as well. My question is, how could, in very poor countries like Greece and a lot of other poor countries, they can build metros like in Athens or Salonika, the very small city of Salonika. They can build tunnels for our metro over there, for underground railways, and we can't do it here in Sydney. But like I said to you, our useless politicians, they just bury their heads in the sand. They don't look around. They don't go to travel around the world to see what other people do and just take them as an example. So now we're going to move to our next subject, and this is the tolls. As I said at the beginning, I am not paying tolls. I refuse to pay tolls. Not on the M5, M2, M7 Lane Cove Tunnel. The only toll I pay is the Harbour Bridge, and that's for a reason. The other tolls, I don't pay every single one of them. The M5 has been paid 4 times over. So my reason, number one, is why didn't we build those freeways or motorways and we just gave them to private contractors? By now, we had paid it off and it would have been free for us to use. But no, our governments, they just give them to private contractors. Why is that? I don't know. Now, that's one reason. The other reason that I'm not paying tolls is because we're paying a lot of money to the government through our taxes, through our fuel excise, through our fines, through our registrations and licenses. Why this money cannot be used to pay for the expenses for these roadways? And if we just go back to the M5, actually, you know why they call it the M5? Yeah, exactly. M5, it's from miles 5, because that's the average speed of the M5. And that's why they call it the M5. So, they said to me they're going to cancel my license, they're going to cancel my registration. Now I looked at the Constitution before I stopped paying tolls. And do you know that it's actually legal to pay toll in Australia? Have a look at your Constitution. It's very important to know your Constitution. Read your Constitution and be familiar with it. You have a lot of rights there. And these useless politicians, they just want to take all these rights from you. So have a look at the Constitution like I did. And I found that the tolls are illegal in Australia. And that's the reason why I'm not paying tolls. Or another reason why I'm not paying tolls. So I took them to court. And guess what? they dismissed the case. RMS, they said, no, we are not going to continue with this case. You don't have to go to court anymore. You can see the letter here now on your screens. That's the answer I got from the RMS. So the case was dismissed. Why? Because they know that they're wrong. When I send them all the information that I have about our Constitution and our rights, they decided to drop the case. So I won the court. I'm not paying tolls. I haven't been paid tolls for a long time. I said to them, I will pay you the toll once you prove to me that the money that we pay you is not enough to build those roads. So everybody can do the same thing. Don't be scared of them. They're just wasting your money. You're paying all these taxes and they're just wasting it. So with this letter that I got from the court, you can use the same information and you don't have to pay your tolls either. And you don't even have to go to court because I did that for you. Our next subject is about waste. Now, we've seen some great solutions like metropolitan demolitions and Kennedy's Timbers and what the wonderful jobs that they do. But still, we produce 2 million tons of rubbish every year just in New South Wales alone. So what do? We use landfills. Let's have a look at this report and what people think about landfills.
So how does a modern landfill work? Imagine a giant plastic bathtub in the ground. Trash is added to the open tub and covered each day with daily cover. Any water that's in the trash, or any rain or snow that seeps through the cover, starts to trickle down through the garbage. When water and waste are mixed, it creates a toxic, poisonous soup called leachate. Leachate contains all the dangerous stuff that's in a lot of what people throw in the trash. The tens of thousands of chemicals, heavy metals, and other toxic materials found in electronics, batteries, prescription drugs, and plastics, just to name a few. Now the leachate, containing these poisons, percolates through the trash and eventually pools at the bottom. History has proven that many parts of a landfill system will eventually fail. The collection pipes buried under the garbage will become clogged and eventually break. Liners will be punctured by sharp objects, and the chemicals in leachate will burn holes in the plastic. Small holes become big holes, and eventually the barrier between the waste and groundwater completely fails.
So you see, landfills is not a good solution. But what is the solution? Well, it happened that I was in Amsterdam a few years ago, and a friend over there, he just took me for a tour at his factory.
More than 1.5 million tons of domestic and commercial waste is processed here each year on 6 incineration lines. Waste lorries and trains bring in the waste. Large grippers then transfer the waste mixture into the hoppers of the furnaces. The waste is incinerated on grates. Temperatures range between 1000 and 1200 degrees Celsius. This heat is not wasted. It turns water in the furnace walls into steam. This steam passes through the 3 turbines at high pressure, and the turbines drive a generator. This generates enough electricity to power 161,000 homes every year. After the electricity has been generated, the residual heat is used to produce heat for the city. This is piped to the district heating system in Amsterdam and provides warmth for 15,000 homes. Part of the waste is incombustible. This part which remains after incineration we call bottom ash. Technology developed together with Delft University of Technology is used to wash and recover metals from the bottom ash. Large amounts of iron and non-ferrous metals, such as aluminium and copper, are returned to the scrap metal trade for recycling. The rest is cleaned further until clean sand and a stony granulate remain. High-quality building materials which are used, for example, in concrete and asphalt. After the incineration process, the flue gases are cleaned. A sensor in the chimney constantly measures the quality of the discharged gases. The white plume of smoke is in fact nothing more than basically pure steam. 99% of the waste is converted into sustainable electricity, heat, and useful building materials.